Hey there guys, I am the Sixth Machine and welcome back to another Warhammer video. So as we saw with some of the other early 9th edition codexes, the actual kits have begun to get shipped with the updated short mini profiles for people to be able to play with the units straight out of the box. We saw it with things like the Redempted Dreadnought, the Terminators I believe, and some of the Necron models like the Immortals. And now we seem to have had our first quote unquote leak of the Kabalite Warriors mini profile from someone who's received an updated box. So let's dive in and take a look at what we can expect. Obviously, some things we have seen, like the stat line and the Splinter Cannon profile, which were shown off by the Warhammer community, so there is nothing new to talk about there. As expected, though, the Cyberite does have the exact same profile, just with an extra attack and point of leadership, as most squad sergeants have. So it's mainly in the actual weapons themselves which we may be able to see some bigger changes in. You can see the datasheet from the box up on your screen now alongside the Kabalite Warriors stat line from the current codex. So let's go through some of these weapons and see how, if they have, changed. It's also worth mentioning before we dive in that these mini datasheets don't always contain all of the special rules and abilities for every weapon, so things like melter style effects or auto hit style flamer effects aren't always going to necessarily be visible on these sheets, so there may well be some additional surprises when the codex itself comes out, or if you see one of these weapons and you think, but that weapon has got this rule and it's not there anymore, so has there's this weapon been nerfed? No, it probably hasn't. Just these little data sheets just give you like a basic, you can get started and play with this unit, out of the box. You don't need the codex if you really want to just put them on the table straight away and play with them, but you don't get every single special rule and ability to go along with it. First up, we've got the Splinter Rifle, which stays with its 24-inch range, rapid fire 1, 0 AP, and 1 damage profile. However, like we saw with the Splinter Cannon, it has gained a strength value, this time a strength value of 2. Now, as I said in the other Drukhari video, I think personally that this will be purely for a rewording of the poison rule. I do think the always wounds vehicles on 6s will be gone, and instead poison will strictly mention the 4+ to wound non-vehicle and non-gargantuan units, perhaps in a way that's worded almost like a reverse transhuman, something like wound rolls of 4+ always wound regardless of any other modifiers, or something like that. So essentially the strength value will purely be there for the purposes of wounding vehicles and gargantuan units. And I mean, yeah, strength 2 will mean that 99% of the time you are still wounding vehicles on 6s, but it could mean that with some kind of toughness debuff ability or psychic power, you could somehow get it to wounding on 5s. I mean, I'll be honest, I can't think of any circumstances off the top of my head where you could, but I think GW are doing this not only to clear up the wording on the poison rule a bit, but maybe also to help future-proof themselves a little bit for any other new vehicles or psychic powers or special rules that they introduce further down the line in 9th edition. Next along we have the Blaster, which retains its 18 inches, Assault 1, Strength 8, -4 AP, D6 damage profile, so that hasn't changed at all as far as I can tell. It's still a pretty solid gun and I like it a lot, but there's nothing more to talk about it at this stage really. So the next changed gun is the Shredder, which keeps its profile of D6 shots at Strength 6, -1 AP and 1 damage, but crucially, it moves up from a rather pitiful 12-inch range to a much more pleasant 18 inches, which is a big boost to its damage radius. It essentially gives your Kabalite Warriors a potential 31-inch threat range instead of the 25 inches that it had before with your advanced move, thanks to it being an assault weapon. So I definitely think this is a very worthwhile and definitely a big improvement. It's definitely going to make you consider taking them. I think maybe they weren't taken very much before. I have one friend that plays Drukhari and I don't think I ever saw him take Shredders because the 12-inch range meant that you really did have to move your squad up to get in range of it, and your Splinter Rifles were already 24 inches with rapid fire, so you kind of wanted to keep them back a bit and hold some objectives. So it was a bit of a tricky situation where you had to decide whether you wanted to move up your Kabalite Warriors and potentially get them charged, or just stay back and be shooting with your Splinter Rifles at a more safe 24 inches, but obviously then your Shredder wouldn't be doing anything. This 18-inch range makes it a bit more of a reasonable trade-off between moving them up a bit to get it in range, but still being a little bit away from your enemy to keep your Kabalite Warriors safe. Again, it's worth noting that currently the Shredder can also re-roll failed wounds against infantry, but this obviously isn't shown on the small datasheet, so whether that has changed in any way is another thing we'll have to wait and see. I can't see it getting removed at all. I think that is a kind of a big point, a big lore point for the Shredder, so I don't think it will get removed. Whether it gets changed in any way, we don't know, but either way, that is a pretty decent little buff for the Shredder. And I think if you want your Kabalite Warrior squad to be doing some anti-infantry work, taking a couple of Shredders in your squad is now a very valid option. As mentioned previously, the Splinter Cannon has changed significantly, but this was previously covered by Warhammer community. Moving to Heavy 3 instead of Rapid Fire is a pain, I will admit, but gaining a pip of AP and moving to Damage 2 is a huge buff for taking out Primaris and Marines, and I think it overall puts the Splinter Cannon in a better spot than it was previously. The infamous Dark Lance is another weapon which has seen a not huge but very impactful change in my opinion, keeping the range, strength and AP, but moving from the very swingy D6 damage to a much more reliable D3 plus 3 damage on each shot, which means that essentially you will be doing a minimum of 4 damage if a wound gets through, rather than the potential 1 damage which you could have done previously. Now, having played a few games against and with some Redempted Dreadnoughts and other weapons which have moved to this style of profile, I have to say the D3 plus 3 change is possibly one of the biggest in 9th. Whilst not affecting the maximum amount of damage you can do, it just gives you so much more confidence and reassurance, knowing that each unsaved wound will be putting a serious hurt on your enemy target, and knowing you don't have to save those rerolls if you roll a 1 or a 2 on the damage dice. I think this change makes the Dark Lance much more viable, both on the Kabalite Warriors who can take it, and also I think maybe even more so on the Ravagers who can take 3 of them, and still move and fire at full ballistic skill. Just pumping out 3 shots with these every turn means that you will be doing, if they all get through, a minimum of 12 damage. So basically taking out things like rhinos and predators in one salvo. It's really impressive. The blast pistol and the splinter pistol have stayed as they were, with the very small exception that the splinter pistol, like the rifle and the cannon, has gained that strength profile of, again, like the rifle, a strength profile of 2, which, as I said, is likely to coincide with updated wording for the poison rule, but apart from that, the pistols have stayed exactly as they were before. And then finally we have a couple of melee weapons to look at. First up is the Power Sword, which, like the Marine versions, has gained a point of strength, which makes your Cyberites armed with a Power Sword strength 4 in melee, which is actually a pretty big improvement for when you're going up against things, anything ranging from toughness 3 to toughness 7, you're basically getting a +1 to wound against them compared to how you are currently. So that is a very helpful little bonus, and should mean your squads of Kabalite Warriors, while still not massively killy in melee, they are definitely much better at chewing through enemy squads if they do get caught there, now that they all have an extra attack, and the melee weapons, certainly the Power Sword, is slightly better for the Cyberite at getting through basically most toughnesses, is that a word? Most toughness values in the game. And then finally we have the whip, which you can see, which I believe is called the Agonizer. I think that's what it is. I think it's the Agonizer. If you look at the picture of the weapons, it certainly looks like it is. This went from being a poisoned weapon with -2 AP to getting an extra pip of AP, pushing it to -3, and still carrying its 1 damage. I believe that the star in the mini datasheet just means that it's strength user, so it will be using the Cyberite strength of 3, which at first makes you think, well, I'll just take the Power Sword because that's +1 strength. But actually, if you're up against toughness 4, they're both wounding on 4s, and then against anything toughness 5 and above, the Agonizer is still wounding on 4s, as long as it's, not a vehicle or whatever, whilst the Power Sword will be moving to 5s. So overall, because the rest of the stat line is pretty much identical, I think the Agonizer is probably the better bet, unless you're going up against a horde of toughness 3 Tyranids or other Eldar, in which case the Power Sword will outperform it slightly with a 3+ to wound, thanks to pushing your Cyberite to strength 4. I mean, obviously it depends on cost, but yeah, I think that means that most of the time, if they are the same cost, the Agonizer will probably be the one that you will go for, in the grand scheme of things. So that's it. I'm sure we will be seeing a lot of Drukhari rules and previews over the coming weeks before the Codex releases. As I said, I'm pretty sure it will be coming out sometime in March, but I am currently recording this just after lunch on the 21st of February. So if this Sunday's preview is the Drukhari, then I apologize, I was wrong, but I think it will be coming out sometime in sort of like mid-March. So I will keep you updated if any more stat sheets are posted up online, but I just wanted to give you fans of the Drukhari a sneak peek, should I say, at some of the changes you can expect and start planning for with your upcoming codex. Let me know in the comments which changes you like the look of and what else you would have liked to have seen get an update. Would you have liked to have seen the blaster, for example, get a change? But let me know in the comments below, and as always, please do like and subscribe for more videos from me. But until next time, I'll catch you later, guys.